Hi everybody, welcome to our special January webinar for our beloved Abundance community. I'm here with my dear friend Avi Reichental, who I will introduce in a moment. We are just a few days away from Abundance 360. Super psyched to be greeting you this weekend for what I and the entire team believe will be the most extraordinary experience, the best A360 ever. So Avi, I'm here with you in Oxnard at XponentialWorks. You and I are going to be sharing the stage a number of times this over A360, and you take the conversations we have at A360 on converging technologies, on exponential technologies, and you actually put them into practice with small startups, mid-market companies across the board. And so before I ask Avi to give us a tour and tell us what he's up to, let me do a proper introduction of my dear friend, my brother, Avi Reichental. So Avi is the founder, CEO, and chairman of XponentialWorks, which you started in 2015. Yeah. You served for a decade as the president and CEO of 3D Systems, the largest 3D printing company, and I had the pleasure of being one of your board members.
Yes.
Yeah, and we also served together on the board of directors of the X Prize Foundation.
Yes, we do.
Also at Singularity University, you created the digital manufacturing track at SU. We worked together there. So many amazing times we've had. I'm just going to read a few more of these things. Fortune magazine listed you as the fastest growing tech company in 2013. You were 13th on the Forbes most innovative growth companies in 2014. When I think about 3D printing, and more than that, when I think about integration of exponential technologies from concept to practice, I think about the work that you do. You are co-founder of Nexa 3D, executive chairman of NXT Factory. Your TED Talk has gotten over 3 million views, and you're just an awesome person.
And I'm still having fun.
Still having fun.
Yeah.
So pal, we're here at XponentialWorks. You are going to be co-hosting the Convergence Catalyzers on Monday and Tuesday morning with me, which is really about how do we converge all these exponential technologies to help a company transform itself. You're also, and thank you, we've rebranded our Tech Hub to the XponentialWorks Tech Hub. You've helped me curate and also curate all of the companies that we're seeing there. We'll talk about those a little bit. But what do you have going on here, and why did you start XponentialWorks?
Well, I started XponentialWorks, Peter, because I realized that companies have no place to go to really apply how to harvest the upside of this exponential disruption. Mm-hmm. You and I and all of our good colleagues and friends have done an amazing job of educating large and small companies, traditional and newcomers, how important it is to be an exponential organization and how critical to success, how mission critical it is to become exponential companies. But after we finish all of our boot camps,
after we inspire and sometimes scare the companies, what do they do?
Where do companies go? And I've looked at also the journeys of if you will, the deep-pocketed companies who actually could afford to go and hire the talent and stand the innovation labs and do the partnerships. Most of them have not done all that well. And so I asked myself, where does a mid-market company goes? Where do the thousands of traditional manufacturing companies that keep changing ownership every 3 to 5 years because they are jumping from one PE portfolio to the next? You know, when do they get a chance to do this? Because they have very constrained budgets. They cannot build in the R&D and the innovation engine in a long-lasting place.
And when you say the chance to do this, you mean the chance to actually reinvent themselves?
To act on the learning and become an exponential organization. And I also ask myself, how do you give all these gifts of knowledge and experience to early stage companies that may have an incredible product, but don't know how to nail it, don't know how to scale it, don't know how to build an innovative business model that allows them to capture most of the value that they can generate. And so XponentialWorks came out of my own work to create initially just a collider for my own companies that I invested in.
Yeah.
Why a collider? Because I wanted them to collide with me and with my staff, and I wanted to shrink wrap around them the best possible resources and talent that their budget could not buy. I wanted to have the best IP guy. I wanted to have the best robotics expert and the best AI guru in town. I wanted them to have access to me because I spent 40 years making all the mistakes. I wanted to learn.
and a few successes too.
I wanted to learn. I keep telling my CEOs, teach me how to make new mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't repeat the ones that I made. Along the way, some good people from our Singularity and A360 community came to me, like George Votis, who put together a very nice tier 1 automotive supplier company called TechniPlus. And he said to me, Avi, I want in on what you're doing here. Yeah. I want my company, TechniPlus, to learn how to behave like a digital company. So why don't you become the edge organization to TechniPlus? Mm-hmm. And he opened my eyes to understand that we can not only collide our own early stage companies as venture investors, but that we could also collide mid-market companies with the early stage companies, open the innovation labs, let the more mature companies get early access to high tech in robotics, in additive manufacturing, in AI, in sensoring, build the innovation labs to serve everybody with the best talent and resources, compress the learning curve for the young and mature companies, and give everybody the chance to have greater exit optionality with an underlying digital trajectory.
So you make it safe for
place.
These companies to experiment on the edge, and you give them sort of the talents that they wouldn't be able to necessarily buy or get elsewhere.
There is no way that they can get that talent within their holding periods. I mean, if you look at PE firms, you know, their typical holding period of a company is 3 to 5, 3 to 7 years from the time that they invest in it until they hope to sell it, you know, at some profitable multiple. If you look at the typical useful life of a startup, it's about the same, 3 to 7 years to generate maximum optionality. Peter, this is all about pooling and sharing best-in-class resources. Mm-hmm. A lot of business model innovation. The other exponential side of this is the go-to-market, the business innovation, the monetization, the business model. How do you make sure that you really harvest the upside of all of this disruption? And when you put it all together, very few companies today can amass under a single roof the resources, the labs, the capabilities, and the experience to become truly an exponential company on a digital journey. And that's kind of what we do.
And let me just bring this home in the following fashion. One of the things I talk about at A360 every year is if you come to the 3 days at A360 and you walk away excited or scared, whatever the case might be, and you do nothing about it, you've wasted your time and your money. And so I'm very clear about the most important thing for you to do as you're meeting people, seeing technologies, seeing, if you would, where the future is going, is to figure out what is the 1 or 2 actions you're going to take. And my job is ultimately to give you those opportunities on a platter. And when I was in a conversation with Avi here, the realization was XponentialWorks is a platform play that you can take advantage of. There may be others as well out of organizations that you know, but unless you actually say, okay, we are in this business and we're not taking advantage of digital manufacturing or robotics or sensors or networks or AI, you're not going to exist 5 or 10 years from now. I mean, just very bluntly, unless you're on top of an exponential growth curve. So where can you do that in a way that is safe, turnkey, and feels also, I would say, educational? So you're learning something out of the experience here.
you're learning, and you're learning also how to implement within your organization. Because the reality is, traditional companies that want to begin to take this journey of transformation, you don't go to the core of your business and begin to disrupt it. Because the core will have a lot of healthy antibodies that, in an organizational sense, that will naturally resist radical change for all the right reasons.
But
right?
it is so true. I don't care how big your organization is. If you try and come in and disrupt the core business model, people come out of the woodworks, they'll resist it, they'll fight it, they'll tell you all the reasons it's a crazy idea.
And call it the natural immune system that actually protects the core of the business. So you don't want to touch that. What you do want to do is you look at us as your edge organization, the organization that's going to come to the edge, give you some variable cost R&D that's very innovative, quickly assess low-hanging fruits within the organization, typically starting on the manufacturing line with, how do we apply some robotics and some AI, and how do we take some operational KPIs and make them really lean and excellent, because that goes to the bottom line right away. Solve a few problems that are really friction points that irritate the crap out of the organization, then you become popular. And all of a sudden, people come to you from other parts of the organization and they say, hey, Avi, can you come solve this for us? Hey, Peter, can you help me with this problem? And before you know it, the edge is beginning to pry open, all the doors that are wedged shut. It becomes kind of your wedge operation. And amazing things begin to happen within the organization, so much so that in success, in these cases, some of the edge activities can become future core businesses.
Everybody's core business eventually goes to zero. There are very few products and services that last over 10, 20 years. And this is a chance really to be growing exponentially at the edge that then becomes your primary revenue profit drivers.
Now, the thing that we learn here every day, which is a powerful reminder, is that most companies, startups and mid-market companies, spend nearly 95% of their days either in trying to lean their operations and reduce costs and become more efficient so that they can eke out another percentage points in EBITDA or in operating income, right? Or the startups try to make it between funding rounds. Very few companies understand that the tech, the product, the service, the experience, while incredibly important because without that you have nothing, go-to-market, business model innovation, channels to market, and most importantly, the narrative of the company. How one begins to craft and tell the story in a way that's relatable, in a way that's engaging. Memorable, differentiated. How does one build sticky, long-lasting brand equity is equally as important, if not even more important. It's another part of the exponential muscle that is paramount to success.
As long as we're dealing with humans, we need that part.
Here you will see when we walk around, we also have, just like we have innovation labs for AI and machine vision and robotics and 3D printing, we have the narrative lab downstairs.
I love that.
Where we actually put together the narrative of the company. We have the MTP lab here where we do boot camps and we literally get it out of executives that come here for the first few days. At the end of the first 3 days of our boot camp, we walk away with a narrative, we walk away with an MTP, we actually walk away with a first video that is completely done after 3 days using all this crowdsourcing technology that actually gives the company the initial cornerstone, if you will, in a foundation of what's the story of my company.
And then that's what you need to go and either raise your capital or get your partnerships or take it to the next level.
Or communicate with a few thousand employees that they don't know that they're in this business. Because for 100 years they've been in a different business.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like Kodak not realizing it was in the preservation of memories business versus the chemical and papers.
Substrates, yeah.
So how many? So let's talk about how many companies are here at what levels.
Good. So we have here about 9 of our own early stage companies.
These are your incubated companies?
These are incubated companies that we personally invested in as seed investors and co-founders in some instances. Large stakes in those companies. They cover the gamut in generative design, additive manufacturing, high-speed data acquisition and robotics, some medical device, some ag tech, some even esports, all areas that technologically and business-wise, in terms of the innovation and the opportunity to become tomorrow's category leaders.
I love that, from ag to esports.
Yes.
It's great.
It's all areas of interest where technology can be applied in unique business models. And then we have here about a dozen or so corporate sponsors, some large, like Techniplus, $500 million company in revenue, Everzinc, another $500 million revenue company. XYZ Printing, $36 billion company, and some smaller companies that are looking to become part of our ecosystem. Because one of the things that we did here also is we realized that to have access to innovation, we need to create an open innovation program and invite other companies that have relevant technology but are looking for access to market or are looking for validating use cases, invite them into an open innovation ecosystem in which they contribute technology, they contribute equipment, they contribute infrastructure. We give them experience, use cases, publications, videos, PR announcements. We take them with us to trade shows.
Amazing.
So it's a win-win. At the end, if you want to compress time to market, which we have to, because in exponential times, the useful shelf life of a product is like 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
If you want to compress time to market, if you want to compress learning curve, if you want to have the best thinking and the best technology embedded in your product, service, or community, nobody can do it alone. So we formed this amazing coalition of a few dozen companies. Some are beneficiaries, others contribute. Everybody gets what they came here to get. And for the mid-market companies, they're ending up with the most exciting R&D and business model capability that allows them to take 100-year-old companies and put them on a digital track.
Awesome.
With digital optionality.
So I want to see this.
Yeah.
Avi and I are the best of friends. We hang out together all the time, and he tells me all these stories. I'm finally here to see the facility, and so I'm excited to actually dive in with you. So shall we go tour around?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. Let's do it. So here's our first stop. Where are we, Tal?
We are in one of the wet labs in which we do a lot of 3D printing. So we have several 3D printing companies here
As you should.
that work in different fields and have different IP, but we share facilities and we share technology openly. And this is one of the places in which we do really high-speed printing. Why? We think that one of the real opportunities to mainstream 3D printing is to break the traditional barriers. The barriers are in speed, scale, material performance. And so in labs like this, which we have throughout the building, we're working diligently to basically unlock print speed, either through UV curing technologies, like new matrices of LCDs and LEDs, through chemistry, because when you can grow chemistry faster, incredible things are possible, through generative design and topology optimization, which we do quite a bit here, and through robotics, because it's not just about printing a part really, really fast. It's also about all the post-processing and curing, because, as you know, one of the dirty secrets of 3D printing is that everybody talks about the print speed, but they don't talk about how long before you can have a finished part in your hand.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so here in labs like this, we deal with everything from the chemistry, the curing systems, the robotics, and the post-processing.
Awesome. Where do you want to go next? Okay.
Let's go next to some of the work areas. So, this is what you might expect to find at a WeWorks if they had labs and technology. So we create very open workspaces. This happens to be a shared electronics area for one of our companies. You can see that we've modeled and created an environment that is all about congregating, colliding, and collaborating. So much so that we ended up even designing our own furniture and our own partitions just to make sure that it's flexible and it can move around and change, as we change. So everything that you see here is our own brainchild, in the sense that we wanted to create a very dynamic and a very vibrant, flexible, exponential space.
Perfect.
We have 3D printers everywhere. So we have dozens of 3D printers around the building.
Yeah.
Some of them are the buildings that we're designing and making ourselves. And some of the other printers are just utility printers that we use to get things done quickly. The name of the game in product design and development today is rapid iterations. And to do rapid iterations, one needs the right tools. We have dozens of printers, from plastics to metals to resins. We can even print our own circuit boards here overnight, because
those are nano dimension machines?
Yeah, we have nano dimensions machines downstairs. That really gives us the flexibility to go from an idea to a full iteration in a few hours or next day.
And when one of the companies has like a demo, does everybody gather to see it? Like, is it going to work? Let's see.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they root for one another, and they help one another, and it's absolutely incredible. So more labs there. We don't have to go see all of them. And behind the black curtains, we have all the UV curable chemical labs, so we can do our own formulations and mixing, all the chemistry. And we will continue this way. One of the most amazing creations here at XponentialWorks is the kind of demos that we do for companies as we try to tease out what will be the narrative, what will be the story of the company. And so in the case of Everzinc, which is a company that's been around for more than a century, one of the leading companies that actually makes zinc powders for a variety of applications, from batteries all the way to anti-corrosion paints, to fillers in skincare products, suntan lotion.
Suntan lotions, exactly.
I mean, you name it. And,
or sun protection.
And when we started looking at them, we said, well, how can we tell a story of a company that's been around for more than a century? And we decided to settle on the scooter as the mascot for the company, because we could find right on the scooter about 15 different use cases that can begin to humanize and make the company and what it does relatable, valuable. Gives it some thought leadership, because here you can immediately begin to look at zinc air rechargeable batteries. That would be the future of last mile transportation in an urban area. You can look at paints and coats. You can look at, you may not have known that, but zinc is a big ingredient in vulcanizing rubber.
Didn't know that. Your sun protection as you're going down the beach.
You got it.
Yes.
And so we created the whole narrative and the display and the story as part of giving the company a new MTP. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we came up with the NTP, which is creating products that matter.
Interesting.
Okay, so why do you get up in the morning every day? We get up in the morning because everything that we do is about creating products that matter, right? We don't do the tires, but we make them last longer.
And that drives an employee to want to do better versus just, sell another widget.
And it was really interesting because we had a group of very senior leadership that's been with the company in some cases decades.
Yeah.
This was a carve out from a much larger company. We had some new members like the CEO that came to really take this company to its exponential potential. And we had a young man that's been with the company about 8 months. That's the marketing guy that was privileged enough to join this group on the 3-day. And he was the one that kept resisting, not this, not that, not quite, it doesn't quite fit. And he had the presence of mind and the courage to speak his mind. And when we got to creating products that matter, he said, this I can get excited about. This I can take to my younger employees and make sure that now they have passion and purpose and they know why they get up in the morning and why they do what they do.
Love it. Love it. Let's go on.
This, of course, is the most important product that we...
the 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine, caffeine.
We designed it, we built it. Lots of happy hours here.
There was a study done recently in which they took college students and tested all different chemicals in their bloodstream to see what would allow them to perform best on exams. And they found 2 chemicals that increased exam scores. It was glucose and caffeine. Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense. Let's go down. What you missed here, and we'll give you through the B-roll, is, here typically we have our concept car, the Mini Cooper, which you'll see at CES and at Abundance 360. But this gives you an idea of how we completely rebranded Techniplus. Remember when George and I started working together on Techniplus, it was a group of about 6 or 7 acquisitions that George put together. Each company had its own name brand. There wasn't a unified logo, brand, MTP, company narrative, which we felt together with a new digital strategy that said, hey, we exist to make the connected world, which became our MTP, right? Making the connected world, both in terms of connecting it, in terms of mobility, communication, cognitive devices. And how do we take a 100-year-old plastic molder that is steeped with traditional injection molding expertise and put them on a digital track? And that's what we did here. We did it through rebranding, we did it through narrative, we did it through identifying the products that could graduate into the next level, like smart lighting and lightweighted parts and embedded sensors in new generations of devices like air-water separation. And before you know it, when you begin to look at the company through a digital lens, you begin to discover that even incredibly traditional manufacturing companies have a lot of technology that with very simple conversion can begin the journey to become a digital product, right? Beautiful. Or a digital capability. So you can see how here in this room, we began to look at parts that could become cognitive and connected. We changed the narrative, the look and feel and talk of the company. And we also, through the concept vehicle, created a new canvas that conveys aspirationally to the automakers what a company like Techniplus can do for them.
I also think when you say making the connected world, you're sort of intercepting a future, right?
You're going to where the puck is going to be.
Exactly.
Right? And that's all part. We teach a lot on how to think exponentially. We don't teach a lot on what kind of actions or what kind of a roadmap can you take and what kind of labs and capabilities and steps you need to have in place and competencies to become an exponential company.
Sure.
And in this case, part of the becoming is kind of anticipating where it's going to be and beginning to aspirationally get there, right? Because if you get up every morning and you say, my job is no longer just to shoot and ship injection molding parts every day, my job is to begin to think of how do I make them more intelligent, how do I make them lightweighted, how do I sensorize them.
So this then was Techniplus's sort of, this is where they've been as a company?
This is where they've been. This has been a new hybrid. This is this is virtual manufacturing. Call this now the Airbnb of manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Why? All the know-how and all the capabilities are here. What happens when you need new capacity?
Right.
It's very cost prohibitive. But if you have all the expertise and smaller companies have facilities, you can bring a branded experience and use their facilities. Okay?
And this is where the puck is going.
And this is where the puck is going. Yeah. And this is Techniplus Digital is where we're here in Ventura. We became that edge organization. And we're running the R&D on all these developments, which then go back to here and go back to here.
Got it.
So you have core that benefits from here. You have prime, which becomes a new platform, a new business model that is light on CapEx, but brings all the automotive know and capabilities into it using other people's capacity, not as an outsource, as a turnkey value-added solution, okay, which is really a clever idea because you can scale and localize very quickly without capital intensity. And you have digital, which continues to feed the new products. That's one framework on how you can take a traditional 100-year-old manufacturing company and in a space of a year and a half, make it truly a digital organization without harming the core, because the core needs to continue to pay the bills until a new core is formed, right? So in this case, one day in success, this will become the new core, right? And so forth.
Where else would you go?
Well, you mentioned Nano Dimension. Nano Dimension is part of the Techniplus Open Innovation Program. So what you see here is that we have the ability to prototype and print circuit board and encapsulate sensors and print antennas on RF antennas on substrates. We can do all of that in a matter of minutes and hours, giving us a real edge in terms of time to iterations, time to prototype, time to tests.
What used to take
time
weeks
to outcomes,
can take hours.
So that's another. There aren't very many of those machines yet around the world. We're amongst the first to have one here, and it gives us an incredible degree of freedom and flexibility in terms of how we support both our startups and the more mature companies. Yeah.
Amazing.
Before we go there, let's stop in the narrative workshop.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. So
I love it.
So we have all the capabilities in the world here to tell stories and to tell stories really, really well and to produce and edit and come out with kind of finding the heart, soul,
we're in the
passion,
filming studio
purpose. Here. And it's easy. It's a recording studio. You can completely sound insulate it when you close the doors. And it really gives us kind of vertical integration. We have our own graphic design. We have our own editing. we have the capability here to tell a complete story overnight. And I feel that all the technology in the world and all the lean manufacturing in the world and all the sales and all the accounting and all the EBITDA expansion that people are looking for is not going to be sustainable and scalable until companies really learn to tell their story in a way that's relatable, memorable, and gives them that unfair advantage called stick-to-itiveness and differentiation.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So
Unless you
very
own the
important.
person's mind, it doesn't matter. They won't actually give your product a chance.
So this is another part of, if you will, the XponentialWorks secret sauce. It's not enough just to do nanomaterials and electronics and nanodimension and robotics. You need to do narrative really well and PR really well. So I mentioned to you that we work a lot with machine vision and with AI. This is one example of an AI station that we designed and built here for Techniplus for the purposes of quality control. These are impellers that are manufactured by the millions on an annual basis for fuel pumping systems. There are a lot of imperfections here that the naked eye cannot detect.
Right.
And if one looks to buy a good vision system today, one can spend a few $100,000. It's not very effective. And it's not fast, and it doesn't use AI. So we said, why don't we take some really good off-the-shelf cameras and do what we do first? Let's apply some machine vision. Let's apply some AI. We created a very flexible station that we're now deploying into end of line in the factories, our own design, something that we did in a few months on a shoestring that now can begin to disrupt the economics and cost of quality at the end of production lines. And it's the kind of product that could go well beyond just Techniplus. Just one example of how you can build products internally. So we keep expanding. We started upstairs, we took the downstairs, then we moved across, and we now took space across in the next building.
What did this used to be?
To do light manufacturing. This is a door company.
This building used to be.
This building used to be a Christian publishing business. They went bust.
So now it's the religion of exponential technology.
The religion of exponential technology.
Yes.
So what we do here, Peter, this is where the serious toys reside. This is where we have industrial strength 3D printers, both plastic and metal, and this is where we do serious pre-production molding. This is where we printed the metal X Prize trophies.
Oh, yes, sure.
This is where we will do all the support for the X Prize teams that will need support in the future. And so you can see that here we can print with complete metal.
Wow.
And this is an example of a very complex Airbus manifold that was only possible to design using the Parameters generative design tool.
What material is this?
This happened to be cobalt.
Cobalt. Wow.
But it could have been any other material. You can see the same example from nylon.
Talk about this is super light and this is super.
What is unique about this is that
heavy.
there isn't an engineer alive that could have created this geometry. This is a geometry that has more than 60 finite elements in the design. So there is no human alive that could have made a design like this and combined all these parts and manifold in a way that would make it work. You were talking earlier about
generative
design. How do we begin to unlock the magic of what nature patented millions of years ago in terms of structural integrity, high performance, lightweighting.
It's beautiful. Whenever you see something that looks organic like this, it looks like it's nature built it. It's a tree or a vine. This is what we call
Yes.
generative design.
You got it.
Yeah.
So, plastic machines, big and small. Here we have a machine that can print up to 1 meter long parts in plastic extrusion. So that gives us now kind of life-size, vehicle-size components and parts.
Yeah.
So we have these kinds of printer here. We have big UV curable machines here. This is a machine from a company called DWS in Italy that is making high precision UV curable resin machines, large and small. So we have that as part of our labs here just for prototyping. And here we have direct metal printing, so we can we can print anything here, direct
Sure.
metal and otherwise.
Yes,
And we have NXT, which is one of our early stage companies that is actually disruptive, just like Nexa 3D is disruptive in UV curable resins with about 100x speed. Next Factory is taking traditional laser sintering and it's introducing a 4x improvement on traditional laser sintering with a machine that is also Industry 4.0 ready with automated storage and retrieval of the build chamber. So when you finish the build, it robotically comes out. It goes, to a post-processing station to cool down. A new one comes in. The process repeat. This one follows your 6Ds. It's at a fraction of the cost. It's at a 4x the speed, and
Becomes available at remote locations.
becomes available at remote locations. It's disruption and deception and democratization and demonetization all at once. And another interesting story, because some of the companies that we curate and bring here come from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So Nexa 3D started in Italy, moved here 2 years ago. They're here. Kuba and Tomasz I met in Krakow in Poland. They showed me an idea. I convinced them to change their idea.
Yeah.
They moved. They successfully got their visas and other inventory
Awesome.
as well. And in 6 months, we will have a commercial product together. So
Can you say what product it is?
the product is going to be the next generation of this machine. It's going to be a fully automated, high-speed laser sintering production machine that will make injection molded quality plastic parts
Amazing.
without molds.
Without molds and on demand.
And on demand. And it will make, here you can also see some examples of lightweighted parts.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of the
And manufacturing things that you can't make in an injection mold.
manufacturing shapes that you could not mold at the strength, at the mechanical performance, strength and speed of injection molding. Yeah.
Wow.
Original. This is
Wow. So this is the original one. It's like 3 or 4 times heavier than
Yep.
than this, and this will have the mechanical properties of strength and
exactly. This
that's
will
amazing.
do the same job that this one does. It's just designed for additive with all these lightweighting.
So this is what you could make in an injection mold, but this is what you can make
Yes.
in a laser sintering
Exactly.
additive mode, and so you're saving on material and you're saving on weight. That's incredible.
And you increase performance
And
in
you-
most
yeah.
cases. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
People are used to iterating rapidly in software, but they're not used to
hardware,
in
yeah.
hardware, and this is a chance to do that.
But we have a team of about 24 people that are experts at what we do. It's very hard to replicate
Sure.
this expertise or to try and hire them or
And then have them work well together.
Yeah. And we also have the facilities, we have the labs, we have the capabilities. And so we become, in essence, that very agile organization for companies that want to take this journey and come out at the end of it with a full package, not just with some shiny
I
PowerPoints
love it.
or recommendations.
The MTP,
but, yeah.
the brand, the vision.
And products, and real
yes,
products, right?
yeah.
I mean, you take one of these journeys for a year and a half, 2 years, you come at the end of it with your own organization that learned how to do it. We can cut the umbilical cord, but you walk away with the whole package.
Yeah.
You're a new company, and you're on a different path. And you're on a different path, not just with ideas and the recommendations, but with products, with a new website, with a narrative, with an MPP, with a few introductions into the market, with some manufacturing improvements inside your operations, and that's priceless.
Great. It's at exponential speeds.
Yeah,
that's why I call it XponentialWorks.
That's priceless. Well, we call it XponentialWorks initially because I like the whole skunkworks idea, right? Because I always felt that some of the most incredible discoveries happened at the skunkworks.
Yes.
And I said, okay, it's not skunksworks, we'll call it XponentialWorks.
Beautiful.
But that's
I love that.
yeah.
I should ask you that up front.
Yeah.
So there you have it, our quick tour of XponentialWorks. And excited to really see what you do in practice during our convergence catalyzers. In 4 days, come ready, thinking about the challenges you have, how you want to combine abundance thinking, exponential thinking to transform your company, your products, your services. And Avi, you're going to guide us through that, and I appreciate it very much, Mel.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to enhance and strengthen our partnership.
Thank you, buddy.
So,
see you guys in 4 days.
see you in 4 days.